All right, everybody, how's it going? It is Tuesday, December 3rd, 2024, and of course, we just finished with week 13, so what's only natural? What comes after 13? It's not 10, it's not 11, it's not 100, it's 14, so naturally, we're on to week 14 here in the NFL. We're already to December, we're already at week 14, just like 3 or 4 weeks left in the regular season, and then suddenly we're in the playoffs. It's going quick, so real quick, we did really good last week. We went 14-2, but I think a lot of people did really good last week. Like, I think I seen a couple people go undefeated, a lot of 15-1s, 14-2s, 13 win weeks. So good job to everybody who had like a good week. I think that was the majority of us, so that's always a good plus. What else do we got going this week? Make sure you some YouTube stuff before we jump in. Make sure you leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here, and the most important thing is make sure you leave your picks. What are your picks for this week? What do you think of my picks? What do you think of the video? What do you think of the season so far? How you doing on your picks? Whatever you want to leave down in a comment, I'll be sure to get back to you as soon as I can. I'm really good about like replying to comments, getting back to them quickly, making sure they're replied to and dealt with. So go ahead, leave something below. We'll get to it. Leave a like and subscribe if you want to. Just do those things. It helps the video out a ton, and I'd really appreciate it. Let's get into the actual pick'em video, though. As we already talked about, we did really good last week. We went 14-2, kind of our best week of the season. We're up to 124-71, good for about 53 games over 500. So we're doing really good now. The season's starting to go well. Looking like we may not hit 100 losses unless we just bomb out the last 4 weeks. 14, 15, 16, 17. I guess 5 weeks. So yeah. Doing pretty good. We have 1 week of bye weeks left here, week 14. 6 teams are off. That's the Ravens, Broncos, Texans, Patriots, Colts, and Commanders. So if you're a fan of one of these teams, you get to enjoy the week off. Maybe one of your arch rivals lose, unless you're the Texans and Colts because you're both off. Or you're the Patriots because breaking news, this just out of Foxborough, the Patriots have lost the bye week. Apparently something like they were leading late in the fourth quarter, and then Mayo decided to just start punting it from the 5-yard line instead of trying a field goal. He was trying to confuse the team, get a safety, get the ball back. It was a big brain play, but ultimately very stupid. And the Patriots lost the bye week because of that. So bit of a shame. Anyway, let's jump into Thursday Night Football. Probably the best game of the weekend other than the Chiefs and Chargers later on. But this is the best one probably of the weekend. The Packers head to Detroit to take on the Lions. The Lions are favored by 3.5 with an over-under of 51.5. Lions are 11-1 coming off a very close win versus the Bears, 23-20. And the Packers are 9-3 off of a 30-17 win versus Miami. So the two things, or a few things I think about with this game is I kind of think about their first meeting, right? Detroit handled that pretty well. And their offense wasn't necessarily at full strength. They were missing J-Mo. It was kind of crappy weather outside, but they still performed very well. They played a good game of offense. So you can only imagine somebody like Goff playing even better than he already did in the first meeting, with J-Mo back, with being inside. With like the weather not being an element anymore in that game, I can imagine the Lions offense will look as good as it can. Typically also when the Lions come out of a game looking bad, they go into the next game and look really strong. That's a big plus. It's a big part of how the Lions have played football under Dan Campbell. Bad loss, ugly win, ugly game. They come out and they look really good the next week. So I'd imagine their offense will be sharp throughout the game, not completely gone after halftime. So you'll see those improvements. And then with Green Bay, They'll play a close game. They'll play a very good game. I don't imagine this will be easy for Detroit. They'll probably be able to take advantage of some of the problems with Detroit's defense, even though a couple games ago it wasn't that big of a deal with Detroit having all these injuries when they played each other. So you'd have to imagine Detroit will probably be able to overcome that. Plus, they'll have the advantage of being like at home. So they'll have the noise advantage to kind of help out with their defense a little bit, which is a big factor. Let's see, what else am I thinking of for this game? Again, I like the fact that it's at home for Detroit on a Thursday night. That usually favors the home team. Both teams that don't have short weeks. They both played last on Thursday, so they've had a week to prepare. I just still like the home team on Thursdays, especially in close division games. It's usually going to be a home game decider. But again, I think that first game and the fact that it was played in bad weather and Detroit played the game rather well, like pretty solid game throughout. I think the fact that it's going to be indoors and at Detroit really adds an extra element here, which is why I'm going with the Lions. a lot of these games aren't really too much worth talking about, as you'll find out. The New York Jets take on the Miami Dolphins. Dolphins are 6.5-point favorites with an over-under of 45.5. Dolphins are 5-7, as we talked about, coming off a loss, and the Jets are coming off a game, or losing a game they should have won. They lost 26-21. They're 3-9. I'm going to go with Miami in this one. It's a pretty straightforward game. Miami, the Jets just don't play consistent football. Their defense is starting to kind of slack off and get bad. I think they're pretty much out of the playoffs, so their season's over. They're probably going to be not playing as hard, and theoretically Miami still can like make the playoffs if they go 10-7. Like, they have to win out, so Miami still has something to play for. The Jets don't. They're really just playing spoiler, but again, they kind of have like a diva-esque team, so again, maybe your best players are taking it a little easier than they should, so I'm going to go with the Dolphins in that game. This is my upset pick of the weekend. The Atlanta Falcons take on the Minnesota Vikings. Vikings are 5.5-point favorites with an over-under of 46.5. Vikings coming off a win, 23-22. They shouldn't have won that one. They got lucky. And the Falcons lost a game because the Kirk Cousins threw a million picks. But there are three things I like in this game. I like it as an upset pick just because it's a random type of game. Number two, I like revenge games. Kirk Cousins' revenge game coming back to Minnesota to rain havoc down on the team. So, you know, I kind of like those like partial things that really don't mean anything but somehow impact every game when they happen. And then I kind of like this third thing of like, I know I have a rule when you don't pick you don't pick the Falcons, right? You always find trouble when you do so. You'd be 6-6 if you just never picked Atlanta. You know what I mean? Like, that's pretty good. You'd be 500 just following that rule. However, I think in this game, you can pick Atlanta simply because of the revenge game factor. And Kirk Cousins plays in, like, I don't know. He just seems like a kind of guy who plays better in these kind of games. Not really sure why. I also just don't really think Minnesota is a 10-2 team. I don't know how they keep Mr. Magooing their way to a 10-2 record at this point. It's like they're either good and I'm missing it, or they're the luckiest team in football. It's one of the two, and eventually the luck runs out. Maybe it's against your old quarterback. How sweet would it be? Oh boy, game of the year candidate. You got the Saints taking on the Giants. Saints are 4.5-point favorites with an over-under of 40.5. Saints coming off a loss. Giants coming off a loss. And I've got the Saints winning this one. I don't really have much to say about some of these games, as you'll find out. They get a lot worse. There are like two worse games in this somehow, believe it or not. Trust me, you'll be amazed at some of these matchups. It's either a crazy upset week or one of the most obvious weeks in the world. You know what I mean? Like, there's like it's set up to be an upset week. Just pay attention to that. Like, you have the Jets and the Dolphins, the Vikings and the Falcons. You have like the Panthers and the Eagles. Like, not saying the Eagles could get upset, but it's one of them weird weeks. But anyway, you have the Panthers taking on the Eagles. Eagles are 12.5-point favorites with an over-under of 45.5. Panthers coming off a close loss versus the Bucks. Eagles won pretty handily versus the Ravens. It was a special teams win, but they won the game. Mainly because the Ravens can't make kicks anymore because Tucker may be finished. Anyway, thinking about the Eagles, I was going to have them win pretty handily because, again, the Panthers just, you know, they're the Panthers. But again, Carolina's been playing a little bit better since they've started Bryce Young. I don't know. I feel like this is going to be a very close game, despite the big line, despite all the people probably thinking about this. The Panthers have been playing good football lately, so this could be like a surprise game. If the Eagles are looking past them, it could be a trap game. It has trap game written all over it. However, the Eagles should be able to win this game. They're far more talented. They're better coached. They have better players. It's just like the whole thing. They should win, but this is just a weird game where you feel like, Boy, the Panthers have been real close to getting somebody, and it feels like they could. They're not probably going to. The tension in this game is rather high for an upset, and I'm not sure why I think that. Maybe I'm just trying to mess with somebody who keeps commenting on my videos that I hate the Eagles. Maybe I am. That's kind of funny. All right, Cleveland Browns take on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers are 6.5-point favorites with an over-under of 43.5. Browns coming off a 41-32 loss, and the Steelers are coming off a 44-38 win versus the Bengals. Pretty crazy scores, both of them involved in barn burners. Naturally, this is going to be a low-scoring game that the Browns almost win, but the Steelers managed to hold out on. It's in Cleveland. They probably lose. Since it's in Pittsburgh, the Steelers will probably win. They don't really lose at home to the Browns very often. It's like a rare thing. So I would imagine the Steelers take this game. They'd probably take it pretty good, but it's a lot low score. It's very low scoring for what these two teams just did each. Steelers should win pretty handily, though. Oh boy, another. See what I mean by there's a lot of like dud games this week, but it's also one of them weeks where it's like super set up for an upset, right? Like if the Raiders, Browns, and Panthers win, it's like, ah, damn, that's pretty crazy. I figured they'd all be close. The Raiders play the Buccaneers though. Bucks are 6.5 point favorites with an over under of 46.5. Raiders were 2 points away from upsetting the Chiefs, and they kind of shit their bet at the end of that game. And the Buccaneers won their game by miracle. Not really sure what happened, but they won. I'm going with the Bucks. Raiders aren't a good team. Might be the worst team in football. Bad overall, like just bad defense, bad offense. They got like 3 good players worth of shit. I don't know. I don't really see how they win this game versus a Tampa team that's been pretty good this year. It somehow got worse. We got the Jags and the Titans. Titans are 3.5 point favorites with an over under of 39.5. I'm gonna go with McCorkle Jones, Matt Goat. Goat Jones. They almost beat the Texans, so that's far more impressive than getting blown out by like 3 different teams this year. 4 different teams, the Titans. I don't know. I'm gonna go with the Jags. They're a better team, kinda. They just don't win a lot. Anyway, 4 o'clock football. We have probably one of the better games left of the week. Is the Seahawks taking on the Cardinals. Cardinals are 2.5 point favorites with an over under of 44.5. Seahawks coming off a big win versus the Jets. Cardinals took a tough loss versus the Vikings. Kind of in this game, I feel like these are 2 similar teams, right? I feel like their offenses kind of are a wash. You consider their defenses, maybe you lean a little bit more Arizona. Special teams feel like a wash. Then you get down to coaching. Again, it feels like a wash. Very similar coaches, very similar kind of looking coaches even. If I have their coaches right, I do. I don't know. I feel like when you look at this game, when you have 2 NFC West teams playing each other, I think the best way to go about how you figure they win, just go look at the win streak the one team has going on, and you'll effectively be able to kind of predict the winner. Seattle's won like 6 or 7 straight games versus the Cardinals, and it's like, oh, okay, so we could just pick we could pick Seattle comfortably, because out in the NFC West, the Seahawks beat the Cardinals apparently. And again, this is one of the few divisions where this kind of shit's a lot. It's like McVay almost always loses to Shanahan, almost always beats this guy. Always, it's very complicated, very funny to look into. I'm picking the Seahawks. Buffalo Bills take on the Los Angeles Rams. Bills are favored by 4.5 with an over-under of 49.5. Bills blew out another team, winning 35-10 on a way to 10-2 record, clinched their division, still after the 1 seed, so they have to win this game. With the Rams, they're 6-6. They beat the Saints 21-14. I don't know. I don't really see this as a close game. I think the Bills defense can pretty much deal with whatever Matthew Stafford and the Rams do. And even if the Rams can't really, or if the Bills can't really shut down the Rams offense, I would imagine the Bills offensively will kind of just have their way with the Rams defense, which is it's improved throughout the year, but it's still not great. It's still kind of shaky. And I could see an offense like Buffalo not having to deal with the snow, the weather, inside in a dome. I think they'll have a pretty nice day against the Rams. Should be close though. Should be a decent game. Boy, this game has big, like, it's not a bad game in terms of record, but it certainly is a who gives a shit game. The Chicago Bears take on the San Francisco 49ers. 49ers are 3.5 point favorites with an over-under of 44.5. Bears lost, like we said, to the Lions. 49ers lost to the Bills. Basically, I kind of like, despite the 49ers or the Bears having lost a few straight, excuse me, I think they played good football. They played 3 close games versus 3 division opponents who are all toward the top of the NFC in terms of record. I think they're all like 9-3, 10-2, 11-1. Yeah, the Bears lost those games, but they played them very well. I think going up against a very injured 49ers team gives them quite a big edge. I think they can utilize the fact that they're healthier, playing better football than the 49ers, and take a win. Plus, the Bears will have interim coach, head coach interim magic. So when you hire a new interim coach, a lot of the times those guys win their first game as interim coach. Just a weird energy. And again, we can revisit this, but I'm pretty sure the 49ers are a little too banged up to win this game. If they run the same team out that played Buffalo, they're going to lose again. It is what it is. Their season's over, just like the Bears. The last good game of the week, the Los Angeles Chargers take on the Kansas City Chiefs. There's only another game left, so it's kind of like a funny joke. The Chiefs are 3.5 point favorites with an over-under of 42.5. Chargers are coming off a win. The Chiefs are coming off a win. Yeah, and when I'm thinking about this game, I know the Chiefs are kind of in like have to win mode now, because the second they lose, they fall to second place. And Buffalo becomes the 1 seed, and Buffalo doesn't seem like they're going to lose again, with only the exception of the Detroit game being up in the air, right? It's like, we'll see about Buffalo, right? So now we see Kansas City, probably now that there's only a few games left. I'm guessing this is where we're going to see what I call the real Chiefs. I've been guessing that till about December, we weren't going to see like what Kansas City was actually capable of, kind of playing possum so they could avoid injury to certain key players that are starting to age, Chris Jones, Travis Kelce, specifically on the offensive side. And, you know, we kind of seen the like Butker's leg kind of blew up because of overuse. Again, that's the hardest part of winning 3 in a row, is maintaining the health of the team. And again, the Chiefs have done a pretty good job kind of just playing at like half capacity, getting to 11-1 record, kind of Mr. Magooing their way to a good season. So I kind of like the Chiefs to win this game, because again, I think we're going to see more of what they're capable of. And kudos to Harbaugh in his first year. I just think the Chargers are a year or two away from being able to kind of consistently play with Kansas City. If this was in LA, I'd think the Chargers were primed for an upset, but it's in Kansas City, so I'm going to go with them. All right, last game. Kind of neither team's a playoff team, so the Bengals take on the Dallas Cowboys. Bengals are 5.5-point favorites with an over/under of 49.5. This one's kind of an easy one, right? Bengals coming off a loss, Cowboys coming off a win. Cowboys defenses look better, but it's like against the Giants, so who cares? They're going up against one of the better offenses in football, despite the bad defense. So I'm kind of in my head thinking this is going to be like a mini shootout. Wherein I trust the Bengals offense to make more points than I trust the Cowboys offense to make points. And also the Cowboys defense has been very bad at home this year. So I can imagine a team like Cincinnati will take advantage of that. Now, I do think the Cowboys stay in the game because Bengals defense has been bad. However, I think they're going to be good enough to stop what's kind of a mediocre Cowboys offense right now. Yeah, that's it. So that's all my picks. What a good week. That's week 14 in the tubes, down the drain, in the dumps. That's all finito. Thank you so much for listening this far. If you have, make sure you leave a like, subscribe to the channel, drop some comments down below. I want to know your picks. You've seen mine. Let me see your picks. Yeah, anyway, thank you so much for listening. I appreciate it. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. That's week 14 done. I can't believe it. We're already this far into the season. Pretty soon we'll be doing playoff picks. I can't wait. Anyway, we'll just, you know, let me know what you're thinking. Have a good rest of the day, night, morning, mid-afternoon, mid-evening. That time between 8 and... well, I guess that's just nighttime, 8 and 10 p.m. Either way, have a good night. Have a good rest of the day. Have a good one whenever you do listen. Peace out. Go Lions. Go Tigers. And of course, it's always go Patriots, even though we're the best team in football in my head, you know. Peace out. Good night. Bye-bye.